This video is for my people who get stuck in the perfectionism. Like, we need to have a chat today, right now. Okay, let's go. Have you ever felt like you couldn't start something because you didn't have the perfect plan? Like you had to have every single detail worked out before you took that first step? Let me remind you that perfection is not the goal here. Progress is. And you don't need a perfect plan in order to make progress. If you're someone that is hung up on having the perfect conditions in order to take that first step so that you don't make any mistakes, so that you never slip up, then you are going to be waiting forever. Because on any journey, especially a personal growth journey or a health journey or whatever the journey is, on any journey, you're going to hit the slip-ups, the setbacks, and things that come up along the way. Waiting for perfection is like a car that is stuck in neutral. You can rev the engine all you want, but you're not going anywhere, okay? It's just unrealistic. You get so caught up in your head that it ends up being a form of self-sabotage because your brain is creating so much resistance to you moving forward or even starting in the first place. You get caught up in procrastination, trying to make everything perfect and tell yourself that you're actually working on things, but really you're doing everything that you can so that you don't have to start. I don't say procrastination to mean something like, oh, I'm sitting there doing laundry or watching TV to avoid working towards the things I want. No, procrastination doesn't always equal sitting on the couch. You can be procrastinating while doing things that are related to your goal, but things that aren't actually moving the needle closer to where you want to be. There are things related to your goal, but they're not actually creating any momentum. And a great example that I see a lot as a creator is like people that want to be a YouTuber. They focus so much on getting their channel name right and like the perfect banner and like working on the perfect intro. Instead, they should be working on what their content's going to be about. How can I be adding value into people's lives? But instead they get caught up on the things that aren't actually helping them grow their channel, because at the end of the day, having a pretty banner on your YouTube channel is not going to make or break it. But I see so many people spending so much time on like getting this perfect, asking for feedback, being so stuck on this and trying to figure out this one thing. I don't know what color to go. I don't know what font. I don't know what, like the nitty gritty that can be changed down the line. It's not really that important in the big scheme of things what the font is, because if you don't like it in 6 months, you can change it. But it's time to get to work. I find myself doing this when it comes to names of things. Like Life by Jamie is something that like I've gotten over it now, but like I would always go back and forth, like, oh, I don't like the name. Like it just doesn't feel cool. It doesn't feel like catchy enough. It doesn't feel this. And I'm like, I got to a point where I'm like, it doesn't matter what the name is. The name could be Life by Poop, but it's about the content. It's about the value you're bringing to people's lives. It's about how people are feeling when they show up on your channel. That's what's more important. And when I started really just worrying about that, and I kept telling myself, oh, if I don't like this name in 6 years, I can change it. I haven't changed it, but it's just not the core of what actually matters in the long run. So when you get caught up on those things, you're actually just staying on this hamster wheel and never actually getting anywhere. Another reason why perfection is irrelevant to all this is because you don't have to see the full staircase in order to take the first step towards something that you want. And I think that we have such a hard time like grasping this and like embracing it, because it can feel so scary, because it's like you don't know what's ahead and that fear of the unknown comes into play. But it's like driving at night or when it's foggy. Your headlights only show you a small stretch of road in front of you, but it's enough for you to keep slowly moving forward. You don't have to see the whole journey. You don't have to know all about what's ahead. All you have to worry about is what is right in front of you and tackle that. And of course you can sit around and wait for conditions to be perfect before you take any action. But this is real life, and those perfect days, they come very seldomly. So you are much better off taking the imperfect, messy action right now, today, because sitting around waiting for the odd days where everything feels perfect or you feel super motivated, it's probably the slowest way to work towards your goals. My tip would be start with what you know and trust that the rest will start to reveal itself as you start to take more and more action. Another reason why perfection is just so irrelevant when it comes to making progress towards your goals. A lot of times I find that part of that not feeling like things aren't perfect is not knowing X, Y, and Z. You don't have the full picture. Using the name example, maybe you don't feel clear on a name that just feels right, or you don't feel clear on like a banner that feels right for your channel, or whatever it is. There is something that you are looking for clarity on, and you are waiting for that clarity in order for you to actually start or move forward. You're like, okay, once I figure out this one thing, then I'll be able to take action and move forward. I learned the hard way that waiting for that clarity is not how the clarity arrives. Action breeds clarity. So when I was making my shift into YouTube, I felt so lost. I really didn't know where I wanted to take my personal brand. I had been on Instagram for like a decade, and I was like sitting around waiting for that clarity to come, and I was watching videos trying to get inspired, just waiting for that clarity to just drop into my head, and then I'd know exactly what to do, then I'd know exactly where to take my brand, and it would all fall into place, and then I could run and take all the action that I wanted. And I learned that clarity doesn't come from sitting around and waiting. The clarity I was looking for, it came once I started taking action. And once I started collecting information and figuring out what worked, what didn't work, what I liked, what I didn't like, and started to experiment. And I've done a whole video on the fear of experimenting and allowing yourself to experiment, which I think is so relevant whether or not you're a creator. I think as a society, there is a general fear of like allowing yourself to be the beginner, to stumble forward, to fail publicly. Like we are so terrified to make the slip ups, to not look like we have it all together. The more messy action I started taking, the more clarity I started to get, the more aligned I started to feel. Taking the action and starting something is like starting a puzzle. You have this box with a bunch of pieces in it. You have no idea how they're all going to fit together. But as you start to take one piece and put it together, the bigger picture starts to appear for you. And that's exactly what happens when you start taking the messy, imperfect, consistent action, putting them together, staying consistent, failing forward, be willing to be the beginner. It all adds up in the end. So my tip for you here is to ask yourself, what is your puzzle piece this week? What is the smallest step that I can take today to move the needle closer to where I want to be? Maybe it's sending one email, writing one sentence, taking a photo, pressing record. What is the one thing, the smallest thing that you can do today that is your puzzle piece for the day? And off the back of that, aiming for consistency will always be better than aiming for perfection. It's way more realistic, it's way more achievable, and it's actually moving you forward and helping you create momentum. I truly do believe that it's the small, consistent habits that we build that add up over time. Consistency is the foundation of so many of the things that we want for ourselves in our life. And I know that when I let go of the idea of trying to do things in a perfect way, I can focus on just being consistent and getting better at my craft and focusing on improving versus just being perfect. Because when you are a beginner at something, when you are starting, you don't know what you're doing. You can't be perfect because you still have skills to learn. When you remove the pressure from trying to be perfect and focus on something like consistency and just improving 1% each time, it allows for consistency to become easy. Because I know when I put that pressure of being perfect on myself, it makes it so much harder to show up because I am just drowned in trying to make things perfect when I'm still trying to learn something, when I'm still trying to figure things out, when I'm still trying to gain information and clarity. It's just so unrealistic to expect perfection when you still are working your way through things. At the end of the day, it's not even relatable because no one is perfect. Consistency is like dripping water onto a rock. One drop isn't going to make a difference, but over time, water can cut through stone. It's not about the strength or perfection of your actions. It's about the power of showing up again and again and again and allowing yourself to create big impact over time through your consistent actions. So go out there and focus on building habits, even if they're tiny. Showing up every day in some form, big action, small action, messy action, is going to take you so much further than waiting for the perfect moment ever would. We've all heard it before, and I've said it so many times, done is better than perfect. And at the end of the day, at least it's done. At least it's done and you have something to show for your work. Now, this is something I personally struggle with when it comes to editing, this whole done is better than perfect. It is something that I'm constantly having conversations with myself about, and that's why I talk about it so much. Especially when it comes to editing, there is always more that can be done. There's always more that you can go in and trim and tweak and add to and do all these special effects. There's always going to be more that you can do. And if I listen to that voice in my head that keeps poking for perfection on every video, I would never upload anything. Because sometimes you just have to create the strong boundary and draw the line and be done with it. It comes down to deciding that it's done even if it's not perfect. And that's okay, and not making it a problem. And please remember this. Your work does not have to be flawless in order to make a difference or make a change or matter in the world. Done moves you forward, perfection keeps you stuck. So the next time that you find yourself getting caught in that perfection mindset, remember what I've told you, okay? You don't need to see the full staircase. Action breeds clarity, and consistency will always beat perfection every single time. Now I want you to think back to a time when you worked on something and it wasn't perfect, but everything still worked out for you. And if something has just popped into your mind, I want you to keep that in your back pocket as evidence to this whole concept that you don't need to be perfect in order to make progress. And remind yourself that, and you have an example there for you. And maybe you can't think of anything right now, but think about that question this week. But as you do this, I want you to remember that shifting that mindset from perfection mode, it's not going to happen overnight. Like I said, I still struggle with this in my editing. I don't know if that is ever going to go away, that feeling of like wanting to do more, make it more perfect. I am so much more aware of it now, and I catch myself. I'm able to have those conversations with myself so that I don't let it drag me down. So no, it's not going to happen overnight, but you can choose today to start making those small choices and actions towards letting go of a mindset that's keeping you stuck, or just making you feel like crap because you can't live up to these unrealistic expectations. So go out there and take one step today. Something small, something messy, something imperfect. Go do it. Just do something. And if you didn't know, you fully got this and you are more than capable. I would love to know a project or a goal you're working on right now that could use a lot more consistency and a lot less mindset of perfection. Or something you've been putting off because you don't feel ready. Or you're waiting for conditions to be perfect. Or it just doesn't feel good enough. What's one thing that you're working on where this applies to you? So don't forget that I've left you a challenge to take one imperfect action this week, today, as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing, and I hope to see you tuning in to another video soon. Bye!